So here's a overview of how the menu system is working and how to set the different things. I'll not go over everything, but I will show some of the menus just to get some highlights in how it works. And when you get the machine, you will fairly easy pick up how to use the menu system and so on. And so let's turn it on, and it will start with the testing the display that everything is working. So it's lighting up everything. And you can see it's sitting in a DCEN and 100 amp at the moment. So it's a TIG mode, DCEN, and here you can see the flow diagram. It's showing it automatically, when you don't use a menu system, it goes back to the amp setting, so you can easily, by turning this one, change the setting. And if you turn it fast, it jumps bigger steps, so you don't have to scroll slowly up to what settings you need. You can fairly easy get up to the maximum or down to the bottom by scrolling fast. So 3 amps to 230 amps. So let's set it on 100 amps. You can see at the moment it's set to 2T, so you're holding down the torch switch, and then it welds, and when you release it, it's powering down and go off. You can also 4T and mini lock and 4T lock. I haven't used the mini lock and 4T lock. It's some smart where there's some extra functions. I haven't used them. Down here you have if you have a lift arc or you're using high frequency, so you can just change between them. So here you change if you're using the panel, as that's just a switch on the torch here. So if I click and down, post low, and it's off. Or you can select if you go to paddle, or if you have a small remote with a thumb wheel where you can adjust the settings. So you can just click here, and then it's on the paddle. I don't know other machines, but I believe other machines they go to, you set a maximum value it can go to, and then you have from on the paddle from 0 to the maximum value. Here you set the low value and the high value. The low value when the paddle starts, and the high value is when it's ending. So if we set this to, let's say, 50 amps, then we hold in, you can see there's a gray corner and a up and down arrow. So if you hold in this key, it changes to high. So if you set this to 200 and then gets back, that will mean that when the paddle is just started, it will be 50 amps, and it full floor to maximum it will be 200 amps. So that's give a finer control. Let's say you want to weld at 60 amps, but you want to find control. Then you can say that okay, we start 40, and then we take the other one at see here you can go fairly fast down to, let's say, 60. So now the pedal is from 40 amps to 60 amps. So you have over the range of the foot pedal a good control of the amperage. I think that's a very good way they have implemented this setup in this way. So if you go back to panel with the switch on the torch, then you get the settings you have on the amperage here, and that's what it's getting, and you push the button and then it gets down. Here's a gas test. So if you have want to test if the flow is correct and so on, you can press this one and count down 20 seconds with the gas flow, and when you're done you can turn it off. And if you don't turn it off when the 20 seconds is down, it will automatically turn itself off again. So that's a fairly nice function, and you can see it says S here in the little lead in the corner. Yeah, now it's so low we can just wait and it will automatically turn off. In this gray area down here you can have all sorts of memories, so you can save settings to a particular number. Of channel eller memory block, so you can have I believe 9 stored configurations in the setup, because number 0, I think there's something special about that one. So that's maybe not the full function, or some startup functions, or some like that. You can see the welding diagram up here. If you push the buttons here, you can change between them. So if we start here, is pre-flow. This is the lead-in amp with the when you have a 4T function, I believe it's starting at but I have set it to 100%, so when I push the charge, it's going up there. Otherwise, you can get it to ramp up slowly, and that's, yeah. So you can see pre-flow, the pre-amps, running amps, the welding amps, and then there's post flow, and you can set that to 5 seconds or whatever you need. And then no, that was a step down time. So when you're releasing it, it uses 2 seconds to step down. And this is the post flow with the bubble. So and then you can press return, it gets back to center menu with the 100 amp and so on. Each time you have a selection and there's something extra, you have this quick setup. You can press it. Yeah, there's not much in this menu. I believe this is something with the 2T hot start 2T time. There's ramping up that start time. I don't know why it's a sub item and not in the. Maybe because it's a normal thing you don't have to change. But yeah. When you click on this one and go through the steps, the last step is dia and then a size. So here, dia 1.6. Try again. Dia 1.6. That's telling the user that the tungsten you need to use is 1.6 millimeters for this configuration you have set here. So it's telling the operator what remember to use that tungsten size when using it. So yeah, if you want pulse, you can select down here, and you can see now select pulse settings. I believe that if we go see, so it's normal is 100 amp. Let's set that down to 50 amp. And then its high is 96 amp, and that's correlate to 40%, and it's that's one pulse per second. Maybe wrong here. This is the normal. This is the up. This is the how much time it is on the upside. So you can differ how much of the time that's up and how much that's down. So if you are pulsing high, but you only want it for short time, it is up in the area of 40% of the time, and then is doing it at 1 hertz, 1 time per second, and the low is 25% of what is the high is, and then there's a step down 2 seconds, and the bottle off 5 seconds. So it takes some time, but when you're using the menu system, you will learn it all the time. So, and if you click on here, I believe no, there's no new stuff. There's also a spot I haven't used. If you hold down this one, there's a micro TIG. There's to connect the thinner materials. So you only setting the amps, and you're setting the post flow. So it's going fairly fast with a small tag to connect things, and you can set that at 230 amps, and then it's very quick. If we go into the setup menu, spot is 200 diameter. It says use 4 millimeters, so set this down to let's say 70 amps. Spot time is 200 milliseconds, and the diameter is now 2.4 for the tungsten in the torch. Just going back, turned off the micro tag. Yeah, that's basically a DCEN. There's some fine tuning you can do under the quick setup for each item. So if we go to AC, we can set that to, let's say, 80 amp AC. And you don't have to, as mentioned before, don't have to replace the cables if you're doing DCEN or DCEP or AC in any combination, because it's automatically changing the output, so the ground clamp is always the same place. So here you have the ramp up time is 2 seconds, and here we have the, let's say we want to have a slower start. We want to only have 80% of our welding amps. So if we set this to 100, it'll be a little easier. And then this is 80. 80% of the 100 amps is 80. So yeah. You could also say that if you want 150% of the welding amps, you can, so we go down to, let's say, 50 for the welding amps, and then you can see the start amps for a short time, the 2 seconds I believe it is 75 amps, and then it drops down to 50 amps when you're using the switch. If you're using the foot pedal, you can of course change that on the fly. And ramp down time and post flow. If we click on the quick setup here, we can have the balance. I will not try to explain the balance settings on this machine, because I haven't fully understand it yet, and I haven't used it. So I have used it by the AC, but I haven't changed the settings to anything I needed. So I'm not trying to explain that, because it's from what I can understand on others on the forum, it's a bit weird. It's going from 0 to -50, and many other machines is using another scale, so you have to change that. But I believe that's covered in the documentation. So if we go back in balance minus frequency, we can go to 250 Hertz down to 50 Hertz. Maybe if this machine is moved to the United States where they use 60 Hertz, this will maybe use 60 Hertz there as a minimum, as the mains here is 50 Hertz. I believe that's what it's using for the minimum. So so that's the, but I've used 200 for something. And you can set here if you want sinus waves or square waves. One thing to note in this menu system is there's a small dot on settings. This indicates that is the default settings. So square wave is the, go back here, we can see the, is that maybe the 50? No. 60 is the default settings. You can see that is the small dot. So if you go over and over, so this small indicator is the saying what is the default for the machine. It's nice to know when you're beginning and changing a lot of parameters and don't know what settings was what. So this was the wave, it's square wave. 2T start time, balance. So this is the extra menus you get on the setup there. The mix I haven't used, that's from my understanding, is that you're using both DCEN and AC, but there's a time, so it's changing between them, and by this you can do some special better welding for some projects. I don't know what it's used for. It's over my skills as beginner for use that one. You can of course set up to 14 mode, and I believe there's maybe no. No, there's no extra functions on this one. So there's a TIG button here and a MMA for stick here. Normally you will think, okay, there's one button here and you change between them, but it's more that you change mode of the machine. So when you're pushing the TIG, it is using the mode over here for TIG, and only in here, and don't have anything to do with MMA. If we go over to MMA, it's for the stick connector, stick welding. It will use the modes over here. I will in advanced here say that when I go to MMA, it's automatically turning on the fans, so it will be a bit loud, but I hope you can hear what I'm saying anyway. So I'll just show you the modes. So you can see it's going to AC, MMA, 10 amps, 60 volts, and you can see, and then there's some arc, hot start, arc, hot start. So there's some settings there, and if we push that again, it can go to MMA DC Plus, where you can set the volt and amp levels, and here, arc mode, hot start. That's what that is. I'm not sure what that is because I haven't used it on this machine. Then you can go to DCEN, MMA, so you can set into amps. So AC, DC plus, DC minus with the MMA, and for the TIG you can go AC, mixed, and DC minus. You can go DC plus, but if you look up here, you can see there's a gray DC plus. This gray means that you have to hold in, and then it's changing to TIG DC plus. I believe that's because it's rarely used and so on, so they hide them in the functions a bit lower in the menu system. There's post flow, ramp up time, mix time. Let's set that to 100. Yeah. Let's see if you're using. Let's go back to normal AC. When you have this 40 lock, you get this leading time. So if we go back to here, post flow, the lead time with the slow amp, that's only 5% of the welding amps. So that was 50%, 50 amps. So this is 5 amps. You can use the ramp up amps to be 100% the same as the welding amps. The post flow, the ramp down time, sorry. So you can really control the steps here. You want them to be from 0 to 15 seconds. Let's go there. And there's the low lead out amps, and there's the post flow in the machine. Yeah, that's the same. So that's basically the menu system. Yeah. And this synergy function down here is, according to what I understand, that you set your settings as good as you want them to be, like AC and 50 amps and so on, and it can use some best practice settings for the welding. I'm not sure exactly how it works. I haven't used it, so I've used the microtech and the pulse and pulse and so on. Yeah. It's not a super graphical display, but I believe it's a display that's you can find out how to use it, and it's easy to see what the settings is. What will be over the years will be will the push button go bad due to wear on the top thing, but I believe you can this thing up here, you can pull that out, and then you can take the whole display out, and there's just a small cable you disconnect, and then you can set in a new display without taking off the cover of the machine. It's designed that way to if you have selected another panel and you want to exchange them, but they are very expensive because from what I understanding, all the functionality of the electronics is placed in the display module, so that is the heart of the machine. So they take a good price for that. Yeah, that's the menu system. Let's see how the display looks like when doing DCEN at 50 amps. So pre-flow 2 seconds, ramp up time 2 seconds. It's ramping up to 50 amps because that's 100%. And then it's welding amps 50 amps. And then there's ramp down time 2 seconds and post flow 5 seconds. So I will off screen here just light up and let it go through the process, so you can see how it looks like. So that's how it's looking on the welding process over here. So that's how it's looking on the display and how it's going between the menus, between the steps. It's showing in the flow diagram what it is and what the value is on each step. So let's try to make some power management, power metering. I have a Fluke power meter that we can use to see how many watts the machine is using and so on. So one moment, I will hook that up. So here you can see the Fluke 255 power analyzer. We have the volt level. We can take this scope where you can see the. Here you have the 0 line, and you have the amp line, and you have the 50 hertz, and you have the values up here. But we're not interested in a nice graph, so we're going to the menu and say power and energy settings, and we're getting this view where we can see the power that's coming in is between the neutral and phase is 236, and there's used 200 milliamps, and that corresponds to 10 watts and not so good power factor, and 0.2 that should be in the other end. But let's fire up with 50 amps and DC minus and see how it's using the value. I hope you can see on the screen that the welding is not shining in and so on. But let's see how it's going. Okay, I'll start. Yeah, I have another power analyzer. It's a Fluke 7035 power logger. You can at the moment see the usage on the. There's a minor difference in how they are logging the things. So let's try to light up and see how it's what it is logging. Last thing here is the documentation. It seems to be a big one, but it is not. It is 14 languages, so it's only something like 20 pages for each language. And it is going over the steps in my opinion, highlights. There's some tables with parts numbers and so on. So and how to connect the bottle and stuff like that. The water cooler, stuff like that. So it's a bit thin on the documentation in my opinion. But the good thing is that on the internet, in welding forums and so on, there's a lot of good people that already have the machine and can answer questions, and that's also why I've made this video to for a new one that looking at this machine and have some questions, maybe this video would answer them. Yeah, that's my new TIG welder and how it's looking with the accessories and how welding, and I'm super happy for it, and looking forward to do all sorts of projects with this welder. I'm still a newbie. I have to learn all the steps and how to do it correctly, and yeah. So time will tell how good I will be to do it, but I have already made some minor projects, repaired some stuff and some. That went okay. I'm sure Jody and other will say it's looking like crap, and I should practice more, but over time I guess it'll be better and better. So again, I have used my first 20-liter bottle of argon to testing and learning and trying and welding, so it's coming along. Yeah. So overall, I can definitely recommend this machine. I think it's a very good machine. It's an expensive machine, so it's not for every hobby user to get this machine. But my criteria and priorities, I selected this one over some other Chinese models. So and it's not even that the other models are cheap, other when they can do the AC. So I find this a good choice for me. I've used a lot of time to select this. So that's it. So thank you for watching, and hope that you learned something that you can use. So thank you. Bye.